Greetings. So recently, Donald Trump and Kim Jong-Un had this North Korea United States summit, and it seems like US and North Korea are getting better relations, more peaceful relations, and North Korea might be denuclearizing itself, and US is gonna discontinue provocative joint military exercises with South Korea, and eventually will possibly withdraw its troop stationed in South Korea. And this of course sounds good, and maybe it is good. Well, for a long time I've thought that the North Korea threat that is touted in the media like once a year, once every 2 years, whenever, it's basically, well, let's say exaggeration. I don't think that North Korea, like, no matter how evil or insane they might be, they simply don't have the capability to be a real threat to the world. Maybe South Korea, but if they really attacked or something, then they would be completely wiped out. So unless they're like completely stupid and insane, they wouldn't do it. On top of that, there's also the argument or the idea that, or theory, that North Korea is basically just a puppet state of the CIA nowadays. Like, I know Jay Dyer, he's been pushing this narrative, and there's others like North Korea doesn't exist. And I'm not saying that it's like I don't know, North Korea doesn't exist. This is sort of unclear. Like, of course, the video will explain more, but I'm not the first one to come up with this assessment, and those two people aren't the only ones. But this is like a fairly, not a common, but not so uncommon sentiment either, that it is, in some sense, I believe, or has been controlled by the United States, and it has acted as basically an excuse for United States to keep its military presence in South Korea and also Japan, because, well, North Korea's nukes are supposedly pointed at Japan. And, well, I don't think that, there's different degrees of this theory that, North Korea is controlled or puppet of the United States or CIA. Like, they're not maybe not like the White House, but some agency within United States. So there's different degrees, such as that. I think like one theory that maybe, this guy believes in is that, is basically just they're actors or something. That I don't know if he thinks that there aren't, many, like there's no proper cities or anything in North Korea, that it's mainly empty buildings, and they have just few actors there who make these videos out of North Korea every now and then, so they can be played on the media and threaten people or whatever. I don't think it's that far off or weird or conspiratorial, but I do think that North Korea doesn't have much power, and whoever, well, benefits or has benefited from the threat of North Korea has, basically, they have probably encouraged in one way, either directly or indirectly, North Korea to act in a belligerent manner every now and then, so they can pump up all these, media narratives, how North Korea is such a threat and we should be so scared. And it also makes like, whenever regular people in the West see this, North Korea being a threat, and, how North Korea is so oppressive and all of that, then they can feel better about themselves because they live in the quote unquote free West, and despite our problems, we're so much better off than North Korea. And I guess so far we still are better off, but maybe not longer if the mass immigration and all of that isn't changed. But anyway, I'm gonna show this, like, there's this parade from this year, North Korea, and like I think like like this short clip I'm gonna show you, it seems, I think those soldiers, they're marching, they seem sort of like CGI, or like, maybe it's actually like a few soldiers marching and then they duplicated them or something with, computer technology. Like the way they march, like it seems too strict, like more like some robot, or like it doesn't seem so natural. And of course the picture quality is so crappy, so you cannot see their faces well, and that might just be a convenient excuse to hide the fact that they are actually like CGI or somehow manipulated or whatever. And once again, like, yeah, there's some other clips here probably that might have some other suspicious stuff too, but my point is not that, it doesn't mean like, oh, North Korea is completely fake, it's created by this created by Hollywood or something like that. But it's just, I just think that the threat of North Korea is for the most part fake. And yeah, of course, like you could argue that if North Korea is no longer a threat, that the US wouldn't have excuse to say stay in East Asia. But of course, like, yeah, China is sort of now their opponent too, so that might still like warrant a military presence in East Asia for US. But I don't really think, like, back in the 70s, Henry Kissinger, he opened up relations with China and they propped them up. And in the 90s, Bill Clinton in 1994, he announced China to be the most favored nation in trade. Just to point out, America has propped up China. They have built up China to be the powerhouse, whether you say it in quotations or not, that it is today. And just to point out, it's not the first time something like this has happened in Asia, that America has built up a power that eventually became a threat to them. Like, Japan in the 19th century, they didn't want any contact with the outside world. And then there was, Commodore Perry with his black ships, and they forced them to open trade with the US and all of that. And then, almost 100 years later, there was, Pearl Harbor and all that stuff. And I'm not saying it was some, master plan by, Commodore Perry or something to make Japan attack America decades later, but it's just basically what the US does. It props up nations for their own benefit, and then they become their rivals in some sense, and sometimes their rivalry or any threat that these other nations might pose to the United States, it ends up benefiting the United States in some ways, because it gives them an excuse to enact this or that kind of foreign policies and all of that. Or like, the Taliban in the 80s, when America formed them, and then they supposedly became an enemy of the United States like 20 years later. So yeah, going back to the summit, the meeting between Trump and Kim Jong-Un, it just makes me wonder if this is all some sort of, stage play, like if he's just, if Kim Jong-un is basically a CIA puppet or something. So is this all an act, like that didn't need to happen? Like, are they, just playing some game for the distraction of the people of the world? And, we're really like, oh no, the conflict is gonna end, but there was no conflict to begin with. Maybe this heralds a change in like something about North Korea, that maybe Trump freed North Korea from the CIA, and now they are like allowed to be a bit more autonomous or something. And I don't know, it's just one possibility. And of course, like, despite all these promises that North Korea might be getting rid of its nuclear program, and the US might be leaving South Korea, like the military might be leaving it. Of course, something can happen, that the relations go south again, and then they just call off everything. Like maybe it happens naturally, or maybe it's just part of the same, game they are playing for a benefit, or maybe someone will ruin the relations. Like if this is in some way a genuine peace offering or friendship offering or whatever, like maybe some Middle Eastern power or something might try to change it. Like maybe there's gonna be a false flag or who knows what. But yeah, there's a couple of like articles. Well, there's just says that US might disengage militarily from the peninsula, but like this, two Democratic senators are trying to start some introduced an amendment to the annual defense policy bill that would stop President Trump from withdrawing US forces from South Korea without Pentagon's input. So the Democrats are so peaceful and all that, and they, Trump is such a warmonger, and the Democrats are trying to stop his racist ways of forming peace treaties, and I don't know. This is just interesting. And like this is just from today or yesterday. So apparently, somewhere during the summit, Trump saluted this North Korean general, and the media, I think I saw like other media outlets also commenting on it, how it was such a big mistake for Trump to do it, and I'm just gonna play that clip. I have basically two interpretations of this event. And so one is either that, this North Korean general, either it was just his habit, like he's not used to shaking hands or something, so he saluted Trump and Trump was offering his hand first, and then Trump noticed, oh, he's not shaking hands, well, I don't want to be rude, and then he saluted him, and then the North Korean general noticed, like, oh, okay, I should shake hands, and then they shook hands. Like, this is probably what it is. Another might be that maybe he's sort of doing the WWE thing that, you put out your hand to shake hands, but then you pull it back to, stroke your hair or something. Maybe he was like, no, I don't want to shake hands with that asshole or something. But then he says like, maybe I should, since he wanted to shake hands with me. So why does the media make a big deal about this? Well, yeah, I think it would be a good thing if US was to withdraw from South Korea. Like, this is a map of US military bases around the world. Some of them are unconfirmed lily pads, and it says it's fewer than 200 personnel. And so they have them pretty much everywhere. Like it shows only one in that's in Canada. So it doesn't show any in the United States. But presumably they also have military bases there. But anyway, and then there's Russia here. Russia is empty and Finland is still free of US military bases, which I think is a good thing. They're the most powerful nation in the world, so I can understand they have military bases in other countries as well. I can accept that, but just, look at how many of them are, and why would they need one in South Korea? Like I could understand, during the Cold War, it made more sense because there was the Cold War. They were basically enemies with Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc and all of that, so it made much more sense. But now they have more of this, vague war on terror stuff. But I don't know if Obama openly said he was fighting the war on terror, and is Trump still doing that? And of course it was manufactured by the US to begin with, or whoever controls the US. And here it says that, this article says that out of 195 countries in the world, US has military bases in 150 countries. So Just like most countries in the world, this doesn't, I don't know, it sounds excessive. And like here is this map showing US military bases in relation to Russian bases, and Russia has only 9 countries, and here it says US has 35 in 35 countries. So maybe they're just using like different perimeters or whatever, like maybe they count all the small lily pads as military bases here, but not here. I'm not sure. And yeah, like as I was just, checking the military base situation, I noticed that, okay, here, like, yeah, why there are no US military bases in Israel? It's, America's closest ally. Of course, but they don't seem to have, well, they didn't have any proper military bases in Israel, except like last year they opened one in Israel, some permanent military base. And yeah, here it says that there is a Dimona radar facility, and somewhere here it says that they have some like port, like a overseas base in Israel. So like, why don't they have it in Israel? I wonder. Well, maybe because Israel doesn't want them snooping, like they don't want them snooping about their like nuke program. Like, nukes in Pakistan, or wait, is Pakistan okay to have nukes? But, Iran or North Korea, that's bad. But, but when it comes to Israel, it's don't ask, don't tell. Yeah, I hope, like, this peace deal with North Korea goes well, and or whatever it is, and the US troops leave from South Korea and eventually even Japan, because I just don't see any need. Like, even if you think about, if I was American and looked at it from an American perspective, like how does it benefit America? Because this imperialist global empire that America has, it doesn't benefit Americans, it benefits somebody else that, controls the military, where they go, who they attack and who they don't attack. So that's basically it.